Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Vedic Astrology Podcast. My name is Fiona Marks. Today is Valentine's Day, and it's a lovely excuse to have a look at what Vedic Astrology can share with us about this special day of the year. One of the things that comes to mind straight away is that we have the sun in Aquarius, which in some ways might seem unusual for a romantic kind of holiday. But the sun in Aquarius does share some ideas in common with Valentine's Day. First of all, the sun is the seventh lord for an Aquarius ascendant, and it's the seventh lord that we would look at for understanding our partner in a Vedic astrology birth chart. So here we have, for Aquarius ascendant, the sun transiting right through that ascendant, or another way to look at it, the partner is all the way over on the other side of the chart in what would be the first house if you're an Aquarius ascendant. So the sun is transiting through its completely opposite side of the ecliptic to Leo that it owns. So maybe this tells us something about partners and those people that we choose to help us through life by mirroring back to us those things that we might not be able to see about ourselves. And the sun is right here in kind of foreign territory doing that mirroring. So maybe that's something to keep in mind. And then, of course, we have the symbol of Aquarius, the pot pouring out the water, which does talk about the returning of our contribution to everyone. And maybe there's a little bit of that in Valentine's Day. Maybe it's a chocolate fountain, not a water fountain for Valentine's Day. Maybe another link that seems to be there for me is that the story of St. Valentine seems to be something about a Roman emperor decreeing that young men couldn't marry as they were better as single soldiers, and a particular priest continuing to marry people rebelliously. And this is the background story of St. Valentine's. And that says something to me about the rebellious nature of Aquarius being all the way over the other side from Leo. And perhaps having the sun here, it's a bit more rebellious too. So maybe something about that unconventional nature fits in with that story that we sometimes tell about the St. Valentine's marrying these people against the king's decree. And then we have another kind of connection as well. If you think about the Yavana Jatika, which is a text that tells us something about the Rashis and the zodiac signs, it has these sweet little sutras that describe the environment, the field of the Rashi. And for Aquarius, it says, in the 11th sign, we see a pot being carried on the shoulders of a man and being poured out. The sign is the shanks of the cosmic person. It indicates tanks, fields of grain, haunts of birds, areas suitable for women, liquor sellers, and gambling. And maybe this tells us about, in Aquarius, that desire to pool resources to make everybody's journey a little bit easier. And we spoke about that in one of the recent podcasts. But it even here says fields suitable for women, liquor, and gambling. So it has a little bit that energy that by pulling resources all together, there may be a little bit left over, creating the opportunity for play, for romance. After all the battle has been won, a time for us to think about the next cycle and starting the next cycle and reflecting on our journey through the whole zodiac and licking our wounds with others and finding that person that we can now settle down with now that we've completed our own quest. So maybe there is even in here a little hint of Valentine's Day. It says also haunts of birds, and we're going to talk about in an upcoming podcast the beautiful imagery of these final Rashis. Here we see the birds, which is a bit of a theme that goes through the 10, 11, and 12. And it links as well with another more Western association with Valentine's Day, that there's a poem by Chaucer, I think, that is often attributed or mentions something about Valentine's Day. And the poem is called Parliament of Fowls. And it is linked to Valentine's Day because it talks about this time of year, if you live in the Northern Hemisphere, is maybe when birds are beginning to consider mating so that they start their cycle ready for spring as well. So if you live in the Northern Hemisphere, it's this time when nature is beginning to show itself after retreating during the cold months, and the buds are trying to push through in those deciduous trees. You can see some blossoms maybe forming and see the bird activity increasing depending on where you live in the world. And maybe that's the birds and the bees thing that Valentine's Day has going for it, is even linked here in this theme that Yavana Jataka mentions the birds, and Chaucer has this Valentine's Day poem about the birds. And here we have in nature as well, just that time of year when in the Northern Hemisphere, spring is beginning to come into the forefront of people's minds. And then to take it even a little bit further, one of the things that I love about Vedic astrology is the way that all the degrees have a meaning of their own in everybody's charts. And if you look at Vedic astrology through tropical zodiac, then you're interpreting the Rashi as a heap of degrees rather than maybe a heap of stars if you're looking in sidereal. So in tropical kind of leads us even in the interpretation of the Rashi to look towards the degrees. So what is it about this particular combination of the sun in that 25th, 26th degree of Aquarius? Vargas does that relate to? What is that 1 degree between the 25.5 and 26.5 that relates to Valentine's Day? What does that share with us about some meaning that might be interesting? And one of the things I noticed was that during the period where the sun is above the horizon, we're going to find that the sun is in its Mula Trikona in the D7. And the D7 is about our creativity. And often to create, we create with others. It's a bringing together of at least two different things that we are then creating into something new. So it's interesting that the sun will be in good dignity in the D7 every Valentine's Day. And in the D7, the sun is actually a main karaka, and it shows the energy behind one's creativity and whether that creativity will be lasting in nature. So having it in good dignity in the D7 on this particular day every year probably helps with the energy of Valentine's Day. And it maybe helps with our inspiration towards creativity. So you never know, that might be helping us out. And then actually during the time while the sun is above the horizon, it's exalted in the D24, which is a Varga about our spiritual knowledge. So this is also a beautiful energy to have in that little 1 degree that it's transiting through during the day, because the sun in that spiritual Varga, the D24, again can speak to our natural inspiration towards higher knowledge. So maybe that helps us in choosing romance that is for our best and highest good, or has that spiritual element to it. And because we can look at all of these different Vargas, we could notice that the sun will be in the Libra energy of Aquarius if we look at the chart through a D3, a D10, or a D45 lens through those Vargas. And maybe this also tells us that it's not really a day for our siblings and peers. And it's not really a day for our work, because the D10 relates to our status and achievements and how we're seen by others. So maybe that tells us a little bit about the playful nature of this day, Valentine's Day. And the card of truth that relates to it is the Jack of Diamonds, which this is not my area of specialities, but is also a kind of fun kind of card. So maybe those are some of the things that go together with Valentine's Day. Finally, we probably touched on this last year, but Cupid is an image that is associated with Valentine's Day, which is like a cherub angel with little wings and an arrow. And there is a lovely crossover with the mythology of Kamadeva. So this is a mythology told in the Matsya Purana. And according to the myth, the gods were unable to defeat a demon named Taraksur. And Brahma's advice was that the only way he could be overcome is by a son of Shiva, and he suggests Parvati as the partner. But Shiva is in deep meditation, and it doesn't look likely that he will be available anytime soon to engage in the behavior that would lead to the creating of the offspring. So Indra asked Kamadevi, who is the god of love and desires, to go interrupt Shiva's meditative state. And Kamadeva carries a bow made of sugarcane with its string of honeybees and arrows made of fragrant flowers. So this is what reminds me of Cupid. They're both kind of young, handsome men with arrows, and they're both associated with early spring, although Kamadevi is more with the festival of Holi and Cupid is with Valentine's Day. And Kamadevi creates a spring to distract the guards and then enters Shiva's room as a fragrant southern breeze. Once in front of Shiva, he fires one of his fragrant arrows and awakens Shiva from his meditation. Upon opening his eyes, Shiva incinerates Kamadeva instantly with his furious third eye. And in this disembodied form, Kama is now disseminated across the cosmos. This brings Brahma's plan into play, and Shiva and Parvati do indeed go on to produce a son named Kartikeya, who defeats the demon Taraka. And from the ashes of Kamadeva, a demon named Bandasura is born, who becomes invincible by praying to Lord Shiva. All the gods get terrified by this demon and create a yagya to pray for Adi Shakti, the feminine goddess. The Shakti takes the form of Lalitha Tripura Sundari and wages war against Bandasura with her mighty army of female soldiers. She defeats the demon and restores him back to his original form of Kamadeva. Kamadeva surrenders himself to her and requests her to always keep him close to her. So Devi takes him into her, and the sugarcane bow and flower arrows in Deva's hand indicate Kama Devi working through her. Bandasura was born from the ashes of Kamadeva. Karma is a powerful instinct. When karma is suppressed, it becomes even more powerful. When Shiva burns Kamadeva into ashes, then Bandasura is born. Banda means shame. There is shame associated with karma or uncontrolled desires. Bandasura represents the power of karma, which overpowers all the Indras, represented by Indra and the Devas. The Mahayagna performed by the Devas represents the sadhana, penance that we undertake, whereby our higher prana is manifested. Only the highest force, prana, symbolized by Deva Lalitha, can overcome karma. Hence, Deva Lalitha is also known as Kamashwari, the goddess who rules over karma. And that's a story that we put together in our Vargas group last year, where we were celebrating everybody's solar returns by creating a program of stories and questions that related to their particular solar return. So that's with very much thanks to my solar return Vargas group from 2024. All right, so I hope that these lovely thoughts about Valentine's Day and all of its different connections inspire you to feel the opportunity of Valentine's Day and the sun's placement being a little bit better in the D7 and the D24, perhaps leading us to finding that self-awareness, that spiritual knowledge, and that creativity that is truly inspiring to our souls. Look forward to catching up with you again next time soon. Bye, everyone.